Hello everyone, welcome to Marlin Chess Kids. Today I show the gameplay by Alexei and Guerau, and this beautiful game complete in just 28 moves and with a very nice sacrifice in the end move. And let's see how the game play. The game starts with the pawn to e4, c5, knight develop to f3, knight c6, bishop to b5, and here the bishop is attacking the knight, and at this move you have the Nimzovich-Rossolimo attacks, and after this move the black play g6. So the white in this game continue to capture the knight. After capture, the pawn capture it back. Then d3 was played to prepare for another bishop to develop and to the good position. Then the black play bishop to g7, and after this move h3 was played to prevent the bishop to attack the knight. And here the black play knight to f6, and this preparing to go for a short castling. After this, the white continue to develop the knight to c3, and here the black play knight to d7, and this is different from the usual play will be a king castling. Instead, the black play a knight to d7, and you have the idea to push the pawn up as well to attack the e4 pawn, and this will be one of the very interesting idea from the black. So after this move, bishop e3 was played, continue to develop the pieces, and now e5 from the black, and here you have the knight and the bishop protecting it. So after this move, queen to d2 was played, and the idea of this is to move the bishop to h6 to exchange off the bishop at g7, and this will give white a slightly better position. So after this move, h6 was played to prevent the attack of the bishop. Then the white go for a short castling, and now b6 was played. And here you have the first 10 move, and the position is slightly better for the white. After this move, the white play knight to e2, and here you have a very interesting sideline. With this knight go back to here, and you have the idea to push the pawn to c4, and also you have the knight to continue play from this position to g3 as well. So the game continue with knight to f8, and the black is preparing to go to knight to e6. And after this move, the white play c3. Then knight e6 was played, and after this, the white continued to bring the rook up, rook a to d1, to have the rook and the queen in the same line. After this, f5 was played, trying to attack the pawn at e4, and with this the pawn capture, e takes the pawn, and here the black continued to capture it back. Then d4 was played, and with this move the white has allowed the black to push f4 and capture the bishop, as the bishop will be trapped. However, in this version is a sacrifice of the white, as after the black played f4, nothing much the black can do, and its position is still equal. And at this move, the white capture the e5 pawn, and this allowed the sacrifice of the bishop, and this the black capture the bishop. And after this move, the white use the pawn f capture back the pawn, and with this capture, now the rook at f5 become very active and control the f5 square. So after this move winning by piece, the black try to capture more pieces, such as use the bishop to capture the knight. And in this move, the white do not capture it back, and if you capture back the bishop, then the queen will just capture and the rook will capture it back, and after the exchange of this queen, the black will be having the extra bishop in the exchange. So therefore, after this move, queen to c2 was played without any exchange of the queen. And in this position, you notice that the pawn is attacking the bishop, and the bishop, any of the bishop move, as you can see, is a red color, and red color means indicate that the bishop move away will be a very bad move. So at this position, the black is better, and if you move the bishop, let's say move to g7, it will be a very bad position for the black. So let's see how it's going to be after the bishop move to g7. And with this move, bishop to g7, the white will be winning the game and will be made in 11 moves. And here you have a very interesting move from the white, such as the queen to g6 check, diagonal check the king, and this rook will be active, go to check, and the pawn will open up to go for the d file and open attack. So let's see how the game goes after this move. Queen to g6 check, and now you can see the king has very limited place to move, and if the king move to e7, then now you bring up the rook to rook f7 and check the king. As you can see, it's control much of the place, and the only way the king can move is go back to e8 or d6. And we make the assumption that the king moved to d6, and now you can see the rook is controlling the 7th rank, and now the idea is continue to have the queen to g3 and diagonal check the king. So queen to g3 and check the king, and now again nothing much the king can do, and there's only one place for the king. And if you move the king to d5, then the knight continue to go to f4 and check, or you can just simply play a e4 to check the king. And with this move, the king capture the pawn, and after capture the pawn, you have the queen to f3, and it will be a very nice checkmate. So back to this position. So if you prevent by with using the knight to f4. Then the queen will just continue to capture and check, and if the king move out to d5, here you can just capture the bishop. And after series of action, the white is obviously winning the game. And if you use the rook to go for the action, then you can just move the pawn to b3 and continue to have the pawn to c4 and checkmate. So after capture with the pawn, then now you can just use queen capture the d4 pawn and check the king. You can see the only one place is to move to e6, and after this move the knight can go to f4, continue to check the king, and now the king move to f5, then you have a very nice g4 pawn checkmate. You can see the square is being controlled by the white. So back to this position, if you make the king to e8, then now the rook can just capture the bishop and you allow the open check. At the same time, the rook is still control the square. So after this open check, the only way the king can move is king to f8. Then you have the king to f7 and checkmate. So you have a very nice combination with this attacking idea. And assuming that in this position, if you move the king up to d7, again the rook will go to f7, continue to check the king. And now if you just block with the queen, then the pawn at d will just capture the c4 pawn, allow the open check, and now the rook can just capture the queen for free. And if you try to move away to c7, then the rook will just capture the free queen, and after block with the bishop, and here you can just continue to use either of these rook to continue to attack. For example, rook d takes d7 check, and after king to c8, then you can just continue to capture the bishop. Then if the rook go for the action, or if you make the knight to d8, the white can just continue to capture the knight, and after the king capture, then you can just use the queen to f7, and the next move will be a checkmate. So for example, if any of the rook moves such as rook to g8, you can just move the queen to d7 and you have a very nice checkmate. So back to this position, and if this position, if you use the rook check check, and if you use the open check, and let's say in this position you defend with the bishop, then the rook will just capture and check the king. And if you use the knight to capture the rook, and here you have another beautiful idea by playing a queen to d6, check the king. And you can see that the queen cannot capture the queen because it's being pinned by the rook, and the only way the king can move is king to e8. Then you have a very nice checkmate by playing queen takes e7 and checkmate. So back to this position, so this is a very nice trap that depend if the black try to save the bishop. And in this actual game, the black move queen to g5. And after this move, the pawn takes the bishop. And then the rook to g8 was played, trying to go for a simple checkmate. After this move, queen to e4 was played, and this queen is protecting the pawn at g2. And after this, the bishop to d7 was played, trying to develop the bishop and allow the rook to be active. But in this position, the white made a very interesting move and another brilliant sacrifice in this position. I give a couple of seconds to figure out how the white made a very nice sacrifice in this position. Well, congratulations for those who found the answer, and for those who like to enjoy the show, here are the very nice sacrifice that the white play with the rook capture the bishop. And this is a very nice sacrifice from the white. With this sacrifice, the king have to capture it back. And after capturing it back, now we bring another rook to f7 and check the king. And here the black is in the trouble. After this move, the king moved to e8, trying to attack the rook. And now give white the chance to capture the pawn to go for the double attack. Therefore, before allow the double attack, the white just moved the rook back to f5, attack the queen first. And after move the queen, now you have the idea to capture the pawn and have the double attack. So after this move, queen d8 was played, and this is one of the tactical blunder and which allowed the white to capture the pawn. And after capture the pawn, check, and at this position is a double attack. It is also queen can attack the knight at e6. So after this move, king to e7 to protect the knight and allow the next move to move the rook to attack the queen. So after this move, the knight to f4 was played, and with the idea the queen to capture the knight. And if you use the knight to capture and go for the action, then the queen can go for queen b7 and check the king. And after this check, if you use the queen to defense, now you have the rook to f7 check. And this, if you capture with the king, then the queen will be able to capture the queen free and will be winning the game. And after this move, here you have a 2 space. If you move the king to g6, then the queen can continue to check, or the better way is to push the pawn up to promote another queen, and it will be clearly better for the white. So in the actual game, after this move, the knight moved to c7, and after this, now the white push the pawn to e6, and with the idea to push the rook to g7 and check the king. And after this move, the rook goes to g7 to protect the square, and here comes another important move where the knight sacrifice again, and this is one of the deflection move which force the rook to move away from the important square. And you can see now the king has no place to move as being controlled by the white. So therefore, after the rook capture the knight, Then you have the rook to f7 checkmate the king. So here you have the very nice checkmate. And with this, thank you.